Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching the Twin Suns Foundation podcast. I am your host, Aussie Evie. Before we get started, I'd like to ask you the question of the day. What got you hooked on Star Wars? Was it the expanded universe? Was it the movies? Was it anything in particular in this expanded universe? Now that I've got that out of the way, I'd like to introduce my team. With me today is Brian Borg. How are you today, Brian?
Doing all right. How's it going?
Not bad, thank you. Dylan Kling.
Yep.
How are you today, Dylan?
About the same.
About the same. And joining us for the first time today is Terry Paxton. How are you today, Terry?
I'm okay.
Amelia and Travis, who you've probably seen on the podcast before, I can't remember. They were going to be here, but Amelia's currently having internet troubles and asked us to give a shout out.
We'll have to make up for her particular brand of crazy as we go.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, she used to really steal the show, if you know what I mean.
Some might even say it was theft.
Anyway.
On to the news.
All right. So
on Thursday, Travis and Dylan lost my train of thought. Brian, take over.
So, Hyper Beach Drive 2017, the fundraiser, the donation happened here on Thursday. Dylan was one of the two Twin Sons members present for the actual drop-off, and Travis being the other. So we're probably going to have Dylan kind of explain how that all went, although I do believe a little bit of a story time about what happened beforehand might be called for in this instance.
Right, as we alluded to on the page yesterday, there was some shipping issues that resulted in us getting more books than we actually ordered somehow through, I don't know, the force maybe.
Yeah, I'm not complaining about it, though we do know how many extra books we received, so I'll probably be reporting it to Amazon here pretty soon on which ones they were and whatnot.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, we were actually missing books too, but we had more extra books than we had missing books. It was weird.
So, well, we were originally planning on 249, and how many?
We had 287.
So, you know, not a bad error to have, I guess.
It's like a Monopoly, the bank error in your favor card.
That's right. That's right. So, you know, got all the books. It took some running back and forth between the post office and whatnot, from what I understand. How did the rest?
Yeah.
So, kind of walk us through how the actual event went.
Well, so we had all the books here, or after I had all the books, because I was still getting books like the morning of the donation, and then because we originally planned to have 249, and I had calculated how many milk crates I would need to carry that many books. So we ended up with 287. I realized I didn't have enough milk crates, so I had to get a few more milk crates for them.
I understand those are kind of hard to find.
Yes, only Home Depot has them. So at least in this area, I looked everywhere. Maybe I should have asked Dennis if he could have given me a discount. But anyway,
keep that in mind for the future. So
anyway, we I picked up Travis because he doesn't live that far. We live in the same city, and where the hospital is a few cities over, but it's like it probably took us like 20 minutes to get there, and 5 of that was finding where to park.
So this was the Children's Hospital of Orange County.
Yep. So when we got there, we originally parked. We parked in the first place we found, and we were there about 2 hours early. So we walked around to see where we needed to go. we actually found out that there was a closer parking lot to where we needed to go, so we moved the car there.
Wise decision.
Right. We had 7 crates, as you saw on the, if you watched the if you had our Facebook, you saw the Facebook post, and I had a dolly, but when I was in my house kind of wheeling around, I found that the dolly could only reliably hold 5 of the crates, and that was really shaky, and I didn't really trust it. So we took them in 2 trips. On the first trip of the dolly, we went over to the hospital. We saw 2 of the members of the 501st, who we think were Rebel Legion members, because they were dressed not as Imperial characters, who were already there. So we met them. We had a bit of talk. I left Travis with the books while with them, and I got the other ones. Soon after, the other ones, the other members came as well.
So this was the Southern California
501st.
Garrison. Yeah, Southern California Garrison. There was also, I understand, someone from, was it the Rebel Legion was there too?
Yeah, I think there was 2 of them because, well, there were 7 in total. The 6, haha, thanks, Bill. There were 6. There were 6 that were like actually supposed to be there. And then because we can only have 8, we can only have 8 in the party that was going, but the which made 8 total with me and Travis. But another one of them worked at the hospital, and I actually ran into him on Friday when I went back to get my crates as well. So he kind of tagged along. They let him around because he actually worked for the hospital. So yeah, as soon as everyone was there, Amber, who is our contact with the hospital, who is sending emails back and forth with Brian. I saw a few of the emails, but I wasn't really that involved in it. She collected us. We went to a room where they all changed. We kind of talked a little bit, but it was mainly them changing, and Travis and I were just kind of talking amongst ourselves. And then the time for the hospital visit came out. So everyone cared.
You said they were changing. What characters that actually showed up to them?
So as you saw, as everyone, a few people were taking exception to, we had a Kylo Ren. We also had a Rey, which I guess no one noticed, but there was a Rey as well. We had a Leia. We had a Rebel pilot. We had a Stormtrooper and an Imperial naval officer.
Good.
And then, yep. Actually, funny story about the Imperial. So this is fast forwarding, but at one point we were Travis was pushing the cart that had all the books, which I'll get into the cart. Well, it's on the screen right now, but I'll get to the cart later. And I was with him, and then it was the Imperial naval officer, the Stormtrooper, myself, and we got to like a really narrow part. So the guy who was as the Imperial naval officer says, "After you," to the Stormtrooper, and he goes. And I kind of said to him, typical officer, sending the infantryman in first. You gotta laugh. Anyway.
That's good.
Anyway,
so the character. So how did that? So I guess walk us through how you actually got the books to the kids there.
So yeah, there was like I said, we had the 7 crates, and my dolly couldn't carry all 7 of them. So Amber lent us the cart that you keep seeing on screen, and we kind of had them stacked. So we had 2 crates at the bottom and 5 crates at the top, and a little of extra room. And Travis eventually was taking books out of the crates and putting them, like organizing them by like what book they were, which I'll get into why he was doing that when I get to how we donate. But yeah, we had the crates there. We wheeled them out to the front by the hospital lobby, and we were limited into how many pictures we can take and where they can take the pictures. The basic rule of thumb was we ourselves could not take any pictures with any of the patients. The patients, if they wanted to, could take pictures with the 501st people for themselves, but we couldn't take any with the patients. So we asked if there was a way that we could get a picture of everyone together, and they said, yeah, we can do it in front of the hospital logo, which is a picture of everyone holding the books. We couldn't fit because the hospital logo was behind a desk, and we couldn't fit the crate, not the crate, the cart into the desk. So everyone just kind of took some books and posed with them in the books. I remember the stormtrooper was looking for, like, he wanted a book that had a stormtrooper on the cover. So Travis and I were frantically looking for the copies of Allegiance because they were somewhere, because they were the only ones we had with the stormtrooper on the cover. We found it for him like just in the nick of time, so we had one. And then after that picture was done, if you notice by the pictures, it's there on the screen right there. Kylo took a picture of Revan, so Travis wanted a picture of Kylo reading Revan for obvious reasons.
Yeah, obvious reasons. But no, that's good. No, so you were taking around to the kids.
Yep.
Using this cart. So how did that work? Was it? I think you mentioned we had previously talked about this. How the characters kind of went in first. Was that how it went?
Yeah, so what would happen is Amber would knock on the door and ask if they wanted to visit, because apparently we ran into this a little later, but one of the kids that was at the hospital on a previous visit had gotten scared of them, so they just kind of went by and like we hid the 501st people for him. He got so yeah, you would knock on the door and see if they wanted to visit, and if they did, the 501st people would move in first. You know, we get the reactions. They would like talk a little bit, get some pictures, and at the end of the visit, we'd give them a book. And the 501st people would actually help us out in this because they would ask like, "Well, who's your favorite character?" And they would go like, "Oh, it's oh, my favorite character is Leia." It's like, "Oh, we have a perfect book," and we have a core trip of Princess Leia for them. Or like, "Oh, I like a Luke." Oh, okay, here's Shadows of Minor. Or if they just had a general like, if they liked good guys or bad guys, and we had books for them, so
right.
They actually helped us.
But
yeah, we had a good mix.
So that's where Travis had to go in and kind of reorganize everything.
Yeah, that's why Travis was organizing them, so like we could have different character books out. So like if they say like, "Oh, they like Vader, where's Darth Lord? Why does Darth Vader?" Oh, they, you know.
So one of the concerns I had about this when it came to donating books is currently they're only publishing really the adult novel anymore.
Right.
And I was a little worried that our crowd that we were donating to was a little too young for these books. What was the average age like for these kids?
I want to say about 9-10.
9-10, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And then you said, I guess, what was the oldest kid that was there?
The oldest was 19. The youngest was 11 months.
11 months. So obviously the 19-year-old would be able to read any of those books, no problem.
Right. We gave the 19-year-old was the only one that we were able to inform of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise.
It's a shame because we had a lot of those cards, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the average age being 9-10. Was kind of talking about this with some other people online after we learned that, and a lot of people actually did come into the EU about that time frame, started reading the adult novels. So I think we're okay on that. That's that actually turned out to be something not to be worried about, which is good.
Yeah, and then even the ones we had, like we had some lighter reads, like we had Dark Rendezvous, which I know is not as difficult of a read. MedStar as well, we were giving away to the younger kids. And other things that were fairly easily digestible. For some reason, we had copies of Vector Prime, for example, which I don't know why, but we didn't give away any of those.
Well, that I don't remember who voted for that, but somebody voted for that.
Yeah,
and that's why it ended up in the list.
Now we almost did, or I shouldn't say almost. It was a joke.
It was a joke that Travis prevented you from following through on. Yes.
I was not going to fall through. I said, Travis, oh, his favorite character is Chewbacca. Wouldn't it be funny if? And he's like, no.
Yeah, no, he's just saying that now. But I think while it was actually going on, that might not have been the case. Dylan has a bit of a dark mind.
Dark humor's like a solo brother. It never gets old.
I led him right into that one. I did. I apologize to everybody listening. That's my fault.
All 9 of you.
Oh, that's my fault. Okay, so it seems like it went pretty smoothly. Reception, did it? Was it well received by the patients, by the 501st, by the hospital staff?
Yeah, everyone was delighted to see us. A lot of the hospital staff even like stopped us for stopped them to get pictures
So
Yeah, everyone had a great time. Even the 501st members themselves, when we reeled out the cart and they were looking at what we had, I think about every single one of them had some sort of nostalgia trip when they saw a book that they had read previously, and they got them. So we had some good conversations with them, talking to them about
Right.
like what they remembered and all that.
So I mean, kind of on my notes, it's kind of leading got next. But what would you say you took away from this? Like, what did you learn actually going through this? Because this is our first, team up effort with the 501st. And our
Right,
first
we
real
had done
large book
we'd done
donation.
donations before, but this is our first like literally handing people books.
Right.
First off, and I know it's great for our numbers because counting this donation, the Rend Network, and everything we've done so far, we've donated 451 books, and one of our Rend Network locations just got today another 27 books, so that's going to keep climbing. But 280 plus books is way too many for a hospital like that.
Oh, that's good.
I want to. Yeah, it was great because we left them at the hospital anyway. But what's good for us is that now that we know that if we ever have 200 books, we could probably do multiple hospitals with that number of books.
Which you were saying we aim for about like 60 per hospital is what you were saying.
Yeah, because we went through maybe 20, and that was giving some kids like, oh, you have siblings here, let's give them a book too. Let's get a book for them as well.
So then, like you said, you left the rest behind for future patients and whatnot, which makes sense. I mean, kids coming in after the fact can read the books just like the ones that were currently there. Right. So
easily
not going
they probably have enough books for the rest of the year.
You were also telling us when we were talking about it after the fact, some of the suggestions the 501st had, which I thought were pretty good.
Yeah, so the 501st said that they had done they do events at schools as well, and that we should look into doing a school event, either with them or on our own, which honestly never occurred to. I mean, it probably did, but it never occurred to like that's actually a thing that we could do. Which and they said like this many books, like 200 plus books, would be perfect because it's like 30 kids a classroom. You can do 6 or 7 classrooms with this many books. So
right. So that might be something that we end up doing with a donation in the future. I guess that kind of gets into my next note, and I think my last note for this particular section of the podcast was future fundraisers. What were some of the things we were discussing doing? Obviously, donating to elementary schools. We would have to do a larger, goal number like we did for this one.
Mm-hmm.
But you're also saying hospitals would be smaller goal numbers. So did you kind of want to go over what we were discussing, possibly making our path forward on this look like?
Yeah. So also, I forgot to mention this, but because and we kind of planned this, but because it happened in October, it technically counted as a Star Wars. It counted as a Star Wars Reads event. So
we're Reads Drive.
Yeah, Hyper Reads Drive. So expect around the same timeline that we'll have some big book drive about every late summer, or if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, late winter. And with books going out October, which is when Star Wars Reads Day is. So expect that.
Star Wars Reads Month.
Thinking of...
Is there a specific day anymore? I don't think there is a specific day anymore.
There used to be. This year, these months. So I'm going to assume that's how they're going to do it in the future. But if there's an actual day, then we'll make sure it corresponds with that actual day. But that one, we know it's happening. We just don't know details. We do have some ideas for locations. Am I breaking up again?
A little bit, but
okay.
So I can kind of take over a little bit. Like, So basically, you could kind of think of it as we book donation towards same time frame next year. The goal being probably doing some sort of team up with the 501st to a hospital or a elementary school in this case. As Dylan was saying, that's kind of the range we were looking at doing for this current fundraiser fits well for that kind of a function. And then maybe periodically throughout the year, we'd want to do it. We might go with a smaller goal kind of targeting maybe 1 or 2 hospitals per time, and then teaming up with the 501st each time we do one of those, because that seemed to work out pretty well. Having the 501st go in, get the kids all excited, and then drop some books that kind of remind them of the visit that they had in the hospital there. So definitely some potential there going first, and it seemed to work out pretty well. Pretty smoothly too on the planning side. It really was not that difficult to put together.
Yeah. So expect more of those. We should have one. If all goes well, we should have one of the smaller ones coming up early next year.
Early next year. That's
but nothing is set in stone. That's just what we're planning out. And then obviously the big one, which we know even less about what we're actually doing, but sometime in October.
Right. So, any other final thoughts on Drive 2017, the actual donation, or anything like that?
Final thoughts. I guess this isn't really an issue, but with the team right now. But one thing that the 501st people were saying was that it was great how much Travis and I knew about the books going in, that we could oh yeah, this book will be perfect for this kid. So yeah, so for team members, if you're listening, and you want to do one of these, you need to learn. You need to be well versed in the universe so you can look at these books and be like, oh yes, that would be perfect. I know exactly what happens in this book, even if you haven't read them, which I don't think any of us are Matt Wilkins who have read everything, but we've read enough, and we know enough about what we haven't read to hold a conversation.
Oh, easily. Yes. So, no, that's a good point. You definitely need to know what you're doing. Some of those books wouldn't be appropriate for those kids, obviously.
Right. We didn't. We're not going to show up with 200 copies of Death Troopers.
Yeah, that'd probably be a bad one to do. That'd definitely be a bad one. I mean, it is kind of Halloween themed, but still, come on.
Right. We could show up with 200 copies of Into the Void, though. That would probably be okay.
That would be just as scary too. That's my opinion. Sneaking through on that one. Okay, so no other thoughts on the Hyper Reach Drive. We should probably move on. Next segment, right, Gordon?
The fan poll.
The fan poll, the 6-inch fan poll. So back in September, this is something we were going to be discussing before our September podcast ended up getting canceled, was the fan page that's on Facebook. I believe it's called Star Wars Legends Fan Choice Polls. They have done a 3.75-inch fan poll to kind of help us prepare for a potential Hasbro fan poll like they've done in the past several years. And then they just finished their 6-inch fan poll. And we kind of wanted to go over the results of that fan poll as we found them interesting. It ended up differently than the other one did. And I'm not going to go into round one because there were just way too many characters suggested by people, which was great. But I think we'll probably start on we got round two. We've been going, yeah, that should be fine. So I guess kind of like what we did with the last one, I'm just going to tell you guys who was going up against who, and who you thought won each section. Obviously, you know who won ultimately. So this first one is probably going to be a giveaway, but the first vote was Mara Jade, Kilgal, Corian Horn, and Kyle Katarn. That's a really rough matchup for round two.
Well, I mean, obviously, Mara won that.
Right. But, it was kind of interesting to see how kind of close the other ones were. Corin actually beat Kyle on that. I was surprised by that, because Kyle's Corin in these types of votes. And it was only 6 votes, but he did win that one. So, next
I think Corin is in more Star Wars media than Kyle is.
True. But Kyle's in more visual media, which is what I expected people to pick up on. There were nearly 200 votes, which is good. Definitely some interest out there when you see something like this, a lesser known fan page. It's because it's a newer one. So the second one was Darth Caedus, Darth Krayt, Cade Skywalker, and Starkiller. That was an interesting lineup. You guys think won that one?
I'm pretty sure Caedus won that one, even to my chagrin. We had your favorite character lose last one. Now my favorite character lost.
Terry, do you have any thoughts on that one?
I had a hard time voting for any. I mean, there were too many good ones.
I ran into that issue myself. Yeah, I went with Cadus on that one ultimately, and he actually did win that round, so he did make it on to the next round. Gordon, any thoughts on that? Who you would have gone for?
I probably would have gone for Cadus as well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
He was definitely the hot button choice, if you know what I mean.
He won by like 50 votes, so yeah, definitely. Next one was George Siboth, Sabayoth versus
Sabayoth.
Sabayoth versus Talon Card and Paleon. I think we had some fans of Heir of the Empire on this one.
Oh yes, Paleon I'd better have won that.
Terry, thoughts?
All I know is I probably would not go for Sabayoth. I'd more likely vote for Card.
Card. Let's see, who did I go? I think
I think he had one.
Yeah, I think he came in second. Card came in second, so it was Paleon that won that one. Not quite as many votes on that one, but it was still good. Only 3 of them, though. How did they get the favoritism of only going up against 2 other people? I'll have to question the people who run that page. Next 4 characters were actually all droid characters. You had T701, which was, I believe, a character that ties into what we'll be discussing later, SWTOR. You had HK47, Proxy, and Whistler.
Oh man, I wonder who won that round.
Yeah, it was a real close one. But hey, Whistler made it to round 2, so take that. He actually came in second on that one too. But it wasn't close. It was like 60 votes. So HK47 obviously won that one. Any thoughts before I go to the next one?
He moves on to the meatbag round.
The meatbag round, no kidding. He probably wasted a few meatbags too. Okay, next one was a battle of the Darths. You had Darth Malgus, Darth Malak, Darth Nihilus, and Darth Bane. I think it's actually got some fan favorites in there, so it's interesting to see who won that one. Thoughts?
I'm pretty sure Bane won that one, didn't he?
Terry, what do you think?
I think there were a couple on there I wasn't even familiar with, which surprised me.
Malgus, you play SWTOR, so you know Malgus.
Yeah,
Malak
he'd make a great figure.
Malak was from KOTOR 1.
Doesn't Malgus already have a figure?
He has a 3.75.
Yeah. He also
this is for the 6 inch.
I think he did a Gentle Giant statue. And then you had Malak, like I said, from KOTOR 1, Nihilus from KOTOR 2, and Darth Bane from all over.
He also used to have a working set of lungs, but, you know.
One of those things. But yeah, Bane definitely won that one. It was actually pretty close. It was only 5 points. Nihilus was in second, which doesn't surprise me. He gets a lot of cosplay action, so he has some big fans. Or wait, I said cosplay. I'm going to get stabbed to death by some of the fellow Twin Sons members for saying that. Costuming. Next one. We had Bastila Shan, Vanner Shan, and Satila Shan. It was only 3 of them in this one as well. What do you guys think? Who won that one? Dylan, will you start off?
I can't remember if it was Bastila or Satile. Because they made it far, whoever won this round.
Harry, thoughts?
Satile. He looks cooler.
He looks cooler.
Yeah, but she has a blue lightsaber. How many Jedi have a yellow lightsaber?
Well,
a yellow double-bladed lightsaber.
Clearly, a lot of people were asking that same question because it was Bastila who won that round.
The only one I can think of is Zane Carrick.
Because, if I'm not mistaken, Satile was the won the 3.75-inch voting, didn't she?
Yeah.
Right. So the 6-inch figure, Bastila actually won. I think Bastila already has a 3.75, which is why she wasn't involved in the previous.
Yeah.
Figure.
I can see why. Yeah, Bastila won because, people want their completed ships.
So I'm going to kind of speed up through the rest of these. You had Valkorian, Jadis, Exar Kun, and Darth Plagueis. That was an interesting matchup. you actually had XR Kun come out of the one top on that particular group, which wasn't sure if Plagueis was going to do that or not, but actually wasn't as close as... Exactly. Next one was kind of interesting. I know who won this one. They ended up in the final rounds. It was Siritachi versus Jan Ors, wow, Bria Theron, and Myrax Tarek Horn. And Myrax actually won that one. I was surprised by that. Went further than her man did. Way to represent. And his droid, too. Man, guys in that group just couldn't get it going on there. You had Tahiri, Tenel Ka, you had Lumia, and Naminor. That was an interesting one to put in with that group. Tenel Ka actually came out on top in that one. And that was the last one for the second round. So the final round was actually 3 different votes, and I think they just went with whoever had the most votes between all of them. It ended up being Basila versus HK47 versus Darth Bane. And then you had Penelka versus Myrax versus Marjade. And then you had XR Kun versus Paleon versus Darth Cadus. And ultimately, out of all of that, Marjade came out on top. So it was interesting that we had 2 different characters win the polls at the 2 different size categories for the potential future Hasbro polls. And should be handy to have to go back on. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think it was expected, because in the 3.75 line, a lot of the fan favorite Legends characters have already been done. So it's kind of not necessarily scraping the bottom of the barrel, but definitely pretty deep into the barrel at the point that we're at now with figures. Whereas the 6-inch line, there's literally just Jaina and Revan that have been made. So
sky's the limit on that one.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, it almost seems to me like they would do well as its own line. What do you think?
Yeah, well.
Yeah, hint, hint.
See, I don't think it. See, I don't think it would be, because, as we all know, Legends fans just aren't collectors.
Yeah, clearly there was no interest in any of these polls with the
exactly
votes they had. I mean, that just doesn't represent anything at all. So yeah, no, I didn't really have any other thoughts how the voting went, to see who was matched up against who, and obviously always happy to see different characters winning. Lots of good recommendations on characters too. So that's really all I had on the 6-inch. Do we want to move on to the next news item, Gordon?
Sure do. Last weekend, I believe it was leaked that Microsoft was releasing specific original Xbox games were being backwards compatible with the Xbox One, including one of our own.
A very popular one of our own. So that was the dogs getting excited about Knights of the Old Republic ending up on Xbox One. It got quite a bit of publicity when I saw that coming out, because if I'm not mistaken, it was among the trending items on both Twitter and Facebook for a little bit there. I didn't actually get to look into it too much. I don't actually currently own an Xbox system. I'm not their current Xbox One, which I think they're getting a new system out soon too. But I had heard some people talking about possibly having updated graphics. Was that actually the case? Does anybody know?
I wouldn't doubt it, but I wouldn't doubt if they were doing that, because that's what they say they're going to do in all their remastered stuff. But
hang on,
I haven't seen a confirmation on it.
I'm reading this directly from GamesRadar.com.
Okay.
Many of the games can already be bought digitally for $9.99 on the Xbox Store, but all games are enhanced with 1080p resolution, faster loading times, faster and smoother frame rates.
Wow. So 1080p KOTOR. That's actually almost worthwhile getting a new Xbox for. That's kind of sad when you think about it. So actually, I do have a question for everybody here. How many of you actually played KOTOR?
I have.
Of course. That was my first game ever.
Dylan, did you play that one?
It was a game.
It was a game. Well, Dylan's
My first
opinion
Star
aside,
Wars.
the rest of you. It's obviously one of my favorites. Played it actually on PC, Xbox versions, and make sure to play it at least once a year. You guys remember, or do you have a favorite way to play the game? Like favorite class, favorite play style? You know, certain companions you tend to run around with.
I tend to go with the soldier class.
The start.
And then later when you get your Jedi powers, I go with the Guardian.
So kind of do the straight route where they focus. I'm assuming strength focused.
Yeah.
Guardian. Terry, what did you do?
I don't remember. I think I just bounced around between different classes. I wanted to experiment with everything.
Yeah, I know I did a lot of that too. A good mix. I do remember my first playthrough. I think I played a scout, and then I went to a consular. Because I remember there was a point in the game where they have you ask a bunch of questions on how you would approach certain problems, and they would recommend what class you would go into based on your answers, and kind of dictates how you would do the play style. It actually seemed fairly accurate for a lot of the tests that I see out there. I have to wonder if that little test inside the game itself is what's informed some of these other tests that end up on online in the years since. Did you guys have any specific companions you used? I know myself, I used Jolie a lot. Like, Jolie was almost always in my party.
Yeah, I'll go with usually go with Jolie because his wit, you can't replace that.
You had to have that wit.
Yep. And then Mr. I don't want to talk about it sometimes.
Good old Karth. Terry, what about you?
I was usually Jolie and Mission, but
Mission.
I did like to
Mission's a
throw
good
Mission in with Karth once in a while because they drove each other nuts and it was funny to watch.
So the party banter, yes. But I do remember some of those conversations being pretty good. There was one pretty early in the game where you have Bastila and Mission in the party. Like Bastila ends up using the Force to trip Mission after talking about practical, doing practical jokes or
I don't know
pranks.
what you're talking about, Mission. Try to be more careful.
Exactly. So I thought, I thought that was pretty good too. But ultimately, I think it's exciting to see it coming on Xbox One. To know that it has enhanced graphics. I mean, I don't know how much enhancing they can possibly do, but if they're saying HD, that's pretty nice. Any thoughts?
I'd be worried about it starting to look pixelated, but maybe they've improved the graphics a little. I don't know.
There was a before and after video on YouTube somewhere.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to go look that up later, just to see kind of how it looks. But I don't really think I have much else to say on Code. Crickets. I think that extends all we need to know. So we had one other topic?
Yeah, give me a second.
And it was kind of leading into SWTOR from KOTOR. Although, if I'm not mistaken, we kind of wanted to discuss Star Wars Galaxies before we went into it, because as most people know, SWTOR ended up being an MMO, replacing Galaxies more or less. And unfortunately, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I didn't get to play much Galaxies. I think I had a total of 3 hours of time on it. I had dial-up at the time. It wasn't great.
Unfortunately, Travis isn't here because Travis and I are the ones that played Star Wars Galaxies the most.
I don't think Terry, you didn't get any hands-on with Galaxies, did you?
No, I didn't have the computer for it at the time.
Right. It's a shame, because I understand there were some pretty awesome things about it that might make it into SWTOR later on. But there is a specific reason why we wanted to talk about SWTOR.
Okay, we'll start from the beginning and talk about Star Wars Galaxies first.
Okay.
Star Wars Galaxies was released on June 25th, 2003.
Okay.
That was nearly 15 years ago now. Wow, that's a long time.
Don't emphasize that. You just made me feel older than I actually am.
I think I was still in grade school in 2003.
You have no part of this conversation anymore.
Yeah,
For
it would have been grade school.
Star Wars Galaxies was one of the first breed of MMOs before the King of War MMOs World of Warcraft came out.
Mm-hmm.
It was a sandbox MMO where World of Warcraft is a theme park. And one of the things I loved the most, it had a rudimentary story. I would nothing to write home about, but it had a player city system where you could place a house on about 5 different planets, I think it was, and decorate the house as you saw fit.
Okay.
And it also allowed you to build a guild city, shuttle ports, and all that kind of thing.
Interesting. And these were things that other players could run across?
Yep.
That's how I thought it should have been done.
The downside to it, naturally, is though, as the game got abandoned, you had a ton of ghost cities all over the planets.
That is a shame. But I do remember when I played, there were quite a few people running around, which is part of the reason why I couldn't play very long. Matter of fact, I actually ran out into the middle of the desert just so there were less people, so that I could actually play a little bit. But I understand, what was it? One thing a lot of people bring up when they talk about Galaxies is the profession system being something special. Was that actually the case?
I don't know. I didn't play before new game enhancement.
Well, maybe that's a question for everybody listening. If you guys did play Galaxies, let me know. Because I am curious about that. I understand professions are a little bit more simplified these days and less interesting when it comes to MMOs than what they might have been in Galaxies, or at least that's what I've been led to believe.
Keeping in mind that professions is what Star Wars Galaxies called, what World of Warcraft would call classes.
Yes. Well, yes and no.
It's your officer, your commando, your smuggler, Jedi, which is quite controversial. Jedi, entertainer, trader. There was 9 classes, and I've only just thought of 6.
Well, sounds like there was a good variety there. So really, I mean, do you want to say anything else about Galaxies?
I've got a lot more to say about Galaxies. Are you trying to move on?
No, just have at.
One of the things I love the most about the game, and I've probably mentioned this before, is the space system. It's unparalleled kind of thing compared to any space system I've ever come across. Basically, you get access to your ship quite early on. You don't have to. You can, unlike the Old Republic, you can travel via shuttle to each spaceport, so you don't have to take part in the space system. But if you wish to, you get access to your ship pretty much as soon as you get to Tatooine, I believe, which is a starting planet. And it's a free roam system, full 360 degree every direction, with quite responsive kind of, what are they called? Dogfights.
Oh, control. So, and I'm assuming you. How did it work? Were you able to go straight from planet to space, or was there like a loading screen in between? How did that work?
There was a loading screen. It wasn't No Man's Sky kind of from planet to space. There was a loading
in 2003,
screen.
Being 2003, that technology probably wasn't there just yet.
But when you're in space, you can hit the H key, access your hyperdrive, and go from Tatooine system to Kashyyyk system.
And was it only specific planets? Like, what planets were involved?
Kashyyyk, Naboo, Tatooine, Mustafar. No, Mustafar was not in the space one, was it? No.
If it was, it would have been later because I believe episode 3 came out in 2005. Did it not?
Yeah, I don't think there was the space system for that though. Hold on, I'm just looking it up now.
So I remember that being a big focus of one of their expansions. The whole space.
Yeah.
Was it jump to light speed, jump to hyperspace? What was it? I can't remember the name of it now.
Hyperspace is multiple times faster than light speed.
Yes.
So you would say hyperspace, hopefully.
Yeah.
Better marketing.
Anyway, there was 10 space sectors. Tatooine, which included Locke. Naboo, which included its moon Rory. Corellia, which also included Talos. Dantooine, Kashyyyk, Yavin, Endor, Dathomir, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, Kessel, and Deep Space.
So it had some good variety there, especially for an earlier game.
People wanted to go to Kessel.
Apparently.
Come on, it's
I
nice
don't remember
minds.
that.
Hey, you don't get to go to a galaxy far.
Why buy spice when you can get it from the source?
Exactly. Not having to visit Kessel. I mean, that's just the absolute best tourist destination.
Right.
The
Temperate
Energy
climate.
spiders.
Yeah, they have a small pest problem. Big deal.
No, actually, I thought that was at the time of when they found out about them that was like pretty recent, that they hadn't been an issue up until then.
Well, that's because nobody survived before that if they found them.
You know, people go missing all the time. Potato-sized moon, whatever.
Deep Space also contained PvP.
Yes.
If I remember correctly, and it's been a long time, there was 2 capital ships, and players from each faction would fight over the capital ships.
Interesting. So, a big space battle where characters could customize their ships, could they not?
Yes, starting with the lowest starfighters, you could craft accessories for your ships, but getting up to the end game kind of ships, you had what they call POBs, or player on board ships, which are basically flying houses kind of things that you could customize inside, just like you could the houses on the ground. But
Interesting.
more importantly, they could also be used for multiplayer battles. Like one player could be in the cockpit while another's in the guns.
Okay. So almost like the pen and paper RPGs did then.
And one of our favorite, one of the most popular starships, the YT-1300, was one of those available.
Well, it wouldn't be a Star Wars game without the ability to fly around in the Millennium Falcon wannabe.
And I think that's everything about Star Wars Galaxies.
It'd be nice to see, exist. One of those things where I wouldn't mind trying it out again sometime.
Musician. Musician, that's one of the professions that I forgot about.
Interesting decision. I don't know why you'd be a musician. It didn't really fare too well in all the places they do show up. Okay, well, if that's all you had on Galaxies, we should probably move on to the SWTOR segment then. Specifically, why it was in the news. Terry, I think you'd probably be the best person to go over this. Do you know why it was in the news?
The Star Wars tour stuff?
Yeah, because it was, didn't it show up in the news with it had a short story, did it not, come out recently?
Possibly. But also the KOTOR had all that, oh boy, you can get the expansion, that when you're free to play, you can now get the Revan expansion due to KOTOR and all that.
To promote
And your free swoop.
So they did like a cross promotion with KOTOR coming out on Xbox One. They got kids. they took their relevant content from SWTOR and made it free instead of having to pay for the expansions. Was that how it went?
At least for a while. At least for a couple weeks. It's a free code.
And that's currently going on, right?
Yeah, I've never seen that many people on Yavin before. It's been pretty deserted for me.
So you
And
were playing
tonight I logged in and went, whoa.
Yeah, just before the podcast started, you were playing. You mentioned there were quite a few people running around. So I wonder if that's like how it was when the game was released. I know.
I was quite busy when the game was released.
Yeah, I don't know how many of you guys have actually played SWTOR. I don't think Dylan played SWTOR.
No.
But I know the other the rest of you guys did. I know Travis did as well, and Travis, like myself, got into the beta at some point, which was a lot of fun. I got really excited about being in that, and then they came out with the beta weekend, so got back into it a second time. It's kind of fun to play through before the game was actually quote unquote finished. But when it released, I remember the early days quite well. I guess a few questions on that. What did you guys play in SWTOR in your earliest days of playing the game?
In the beta, I played a bounty hunter up to level 16.
Okay.
I just wanted to get to the ship and experience the space stuff, which I was kind of disappointed about, I'll admit.
Okay.
My first character in the actual game was the trooper.
A trooper. So you played Republic side trooper. Got it. Interesting. Terry, what did you play when you started?
Well, my first one was Jedi Consular. I had no clue what I was doing.
Actually, I think I remember. Yeah. You actually tried to heal me through something. We actually made it through just fine too. So you did just good enough job on that.
That was one of our very few guild events.
That's right. For those who don't know, the Alliance to Preserve the Expanded Universe does have a pair of guilds. Not sure what server it's on because there was a server migration now, and I'm not sure what it's called anymore.
It's still Ebonhawk until November.
Until November, so that hasn't happened yet. But yeah, no, they had one on the Republic side and one on the Empire side, and we had some good times playing some characters through a couple good guild events. I haven't been to too many. I've only been to 2 myself, but I typically run as the tank, and I too played Consular when I started playing. I went down the Shadow route, and that's actually what I did in the beta as well, because I really enjoyed how that tank played. And then they went and changed everything. I was a little sad about that, but still plays okay. It's just not as fun as it used to be for me, or at least to me. Any thoughts on the early days? Did you guys PvP?
Yes. Sorry. Back in the really early days, I spent a lot of time going between, what are they called? This game's version of Battlegrounds. I can't remember what they call it.
It's not Flashpoints, it's not Operations. Was it Warzones?
Warzones, that's the one. A couple of those I liked, but most of them I didn't. The one on older ones were quite fun.
I did the capture the flag type one. It wasn't capture, I guess, the point. Multiple points throughout the map where you're battling for control.
I think that's the older one map.
I did that one a lot in the early days. This is probably why they ended up changing the tank class for Shadows and Assassins quite a bit, because you could often hold down a point by yourself against up to 3 other players if you knew what you were doing. And sometimes even kill a few of them while you're doing it. So probably why it ended up getting completely reworked. But I did enjoy that. There was also Hutball, which was really popular.
That one was fun.
And I had some fun with that too, because one of the Jedi tank's powers was a force pull, and I often loved trying to force pull enemies into the traps that were all over the place. Pulling the person with the ball, because they're supposed to run the ball over to the goal. You pull them all the way back, and they're like, "What the heck?" Completely put their plans back. It was a lot of fun.
Been there, done that.
I did enjoy SWTOR's PvP in the early days a lot more than I do enjoy, say, WoW's PvP now, for example. I just don't play PvP at all anymore. But SWTOR's was one of the few that I thoroughly enjoyed. I know ops-wise, I didn't really get into many flashpoints for ops. I really only did one with a bunch of friends in the early days. And we only had 7 people, so we couldn't do the 8-person fight that was 3 bosses in on that particular operation. So we kind of got stuck just doing 2. But it was a lot of fun. I know my friend who played a healer did a commando healer, and he just liked shooting all of his friends that actually healed them. Here, take a grenade to the face. Oh, look, an explosion of health. Green beam of healing coming out of my massive gun. He really enjoyed that. So, well, I had some good times. So what about you guys?
Yeah.
Is that Lieutenant Ketch?
What?
Lieutenant Ketch. You should have played. They did introduce an Ewok character eventually, but you couldn't play them.
Oh.
No,
I just saw an
that's
Ewok
one
in
of
the. I'm watching the
This-
chat. I saw the
was-
Ewok.
Oh,
what was that
Treek.
companion? Shriek, thank you. And it was a female Ewok. Was
Yep.
I've got Treek.
Shriek was fun.
I'm gonna call him Ketch from now on.
Do not let Treek feed you.
Do not let Treek what?
Do not let Treek feed you. Treek did admit that her enemies end up in her dinner.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's avoid Shriek's galley day. But no, I'm Space Combat. I'm kind of with Gordon on the. I haven't played the newer rendition of it, but the early rendition of it was the on rails thing that you're seeing right now. It was okay. I didn't really do it all that much, and it certainly wasn't what I was hoping for when they first showed it off. Like I remember in the lead up to the release of the game, looking at all this stuff, going, "This is exactly what I want." No, I lied. But it was still a fun game, and I still have an active account. I just don't get around to playing it. I'm too busy doing things like this now.
Yeah, for me, the Space Combat was most disappointing because, given the success of Jump to Light Speed, I was hoping for something like that, and we got this instead.
Now, story-wise, what did you guys think of everything?
Story-wise, SWTOR makes a good Star Wars story. You can't deny that. It's definitely got the BioWare charm to it, and it is. If you try to ignore the stuff that takes you out of the immersion, then it's definitely got a very immersive story.
Now, before I jump over to Terry's opinion, I did point out one thing I thought was really awesome and why I was excited for this. I saw I think on that was talking about how BioWare dived into the expanded universe just to pull out information specifically to be reused in this game. And I know in the Consular story that definitely showed quite a bit. Terry, what were your thoughts on the story?
I love how I keep bumping into the expanded universe in there. I mean, even these little crafty missions, the little slicey missions, you pop up little things, little tidbits from the expanded universe that most people probably don't notice. But if you've read the books and comics, you go, "Oh, I know that planet."
I know what they're talking about. I can see it. Yeah, there were some great parts about that, and it was always in little places too. Like it was just enough to kind of fill it out, like it was, part of the actual expanded universe, for lack of a better way of putting it, I guess. And that it felt, pretty well for the most part. I mean, there were a few points where it kind of felt like it broke away from the lore in places, but at the same time, I had to keep reminding myself that it took place kind of in that area where they hadn't explored much in the books or the comics, or obviously the games. So it was kind of, they were free to do a lot of things. Now, with the more recent stuff going on, what do you think about there, Terry? Because I don't know, Gordon, how much have you played of the new stuff?
I've played it all, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I haven't played any of the additional content after Knights of the Eternal Throne, but I have played Knights of the Eternal Throne.
Mm. Terry, what do you think? Because you're still a player. I'm not as to this
Ah.
particular game.
I've only gotten as far as Zyest because I didn't want to give up my companions, but I did just start, or I'm almost to the point with 2 more where I'm like, okay, these 2 are going to go all the way through.
Okay,
Hopefully.
so you haven't quite gone through all that stuff just yet, then.
Yeah, I've heard stuff. You know, I'm not trying to avoid spoilers. I'm not looking for them or trying to avoid them.
It is fairly interesting. I do like some of the.
Just before we go on, I want to give a spoiler warning to the footage on screen at the moment.
Well, yeah, we're kind of getting into spoiler territory. As we're talking about the current stuff going on in the game, more or less.
Or just what's on screen at the moment is from the Knights of the Eternal Throne.
Right, which is actually the most recent stuff I've played was from Knights of the Eternal Throne. I'm not sure. There might have been a few things released since I last actively played the game, but
Umbara? Umbara caused quite a fuss.
Yeah, because I don't think I did Embar. I did read the short story, but I didn't. Yeah, I didn't quite get there yet. Was like Terry, I was a little bit hesitant to give up my companion characters, and a lot of them still haven't returned on the consular, so I've been a little bit upset about that. But you know,
Consular got screwed over.
Yeah, well, I think they were probably the last one developed. From what I could tell in the early stuff, is they seemed a lot less fleshed out when it came to what was going on in their story, their characters that they ran into, that kind of stuff. So I'm not overly surprised that trends kind of continued because most people gravitated away from that class. Most of them played.
I can't believe they dropped Felix.
Felix.
Felix had a Sith holocron in his head, for goodness sake. I mean,
Yeah,
they could do something there.
exactly. I mean, he has to come back. As Dylan was talking to us about before we actually started this podcast, though, he did bring up an interesting point. Dylan, did you want to go over your interesting insights into SWTOR?
This would have been better. This would have been better at the during the discussion because his character was in the fan poll.
The hero of Titan.
No, not him. The what was his name? Bastila and Brevon's oldest son, who decided to not become a Jedi.
Oh,
What?
Theron.
Yeah.
Can't become a Jedi. He has no Force sensitivity.
He's not really a son.
he
He's like a great-grand something.
No.
You're talking about the guy that was in the fan poll. It was like I can't remember his name.
Yeah, it wasn't Theron. It was another one. He was in the Revan novel, and he was Revan's exact son.
I can see his picture in my head and can't remember his name. Poor kid.
But yeah, he became a chief of state and like ruled over or started like a banner. Yes, there we go. Thank you. And he had a little time of peace. A little small era, a 300-year era of peace in the galaxy.
Mm-hmm. Which is frequently at war, so that was something.
Right. All until the Sith Empire attacked. And only the hero of Tython, master of all the Force, could stop him. But when the galaxy needed him most, he vanished.
So for those who don't know, with Aang being, you know, how that story goes with the Fire Nation attacking, and and he just vanishes, kind of like how the hero of Tython just kind of vanishes right before Knights of the Eternal Empire.
Right. Or like how Padme's will to live vanishes at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. At least this one had more of an explanation to it. No, I don't think I really have much else to say on SWTOR aside from I did enjoy it. It just wasn't quite what I was hoping for.
What's your favorite companion character then, Brian?
Favorite companion character? There were a lot of good companions. I don't know that I would have a particular favorite because my class really didn't have any of them. I mean, there were some interesting ones. I always thought Blizz was kind of interesting, running around with a Jawa. It was kind of fun. Go ahead and ask Terry while I think about that some more.
Terry?
Depends on which companion I'm on. Some of them had so many good ones. Nadia's my favorite for consular.
I would agree there.
And, let's see. I love T7. There was somebody else oh yeah, T7 was one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
There was once I got interrupted during the game, and I turned away, and I came back, and everybody was dead at his feet. And I'm like, what do you need me for?
All right, T7's got it. Isn't there a law in the Republic against this? I mean, I thought assassin droids were illegal. No, I can't really think, because Nadia would have been my favorite for the Chancellor, and that was my main class, but there were some really interesting characters out there. Obviously Theron became a really good companion in later parts of the game. Lana Beniko was interesting.
Jaisa was interesting. It all depended on which way you went with her, I think.
Jaisa was really interesting. She was the one that could change depending on what your alignment is, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I thought was an interesting concept. That is actually something they did in KOTOR too, was your companions kind of shifted alignment as you did.
Well, Jaisa's a more extreme version of that. Strictly speaking, there is 2 Jaisa companions, and each one is programmed differently.
Mm-hmm. Kem Vol was interesting. I know I have a friend who loved Kem. She never went anywhere.
There was outrage he was replaced.
No, I think for now I'm just gonna have to say I don't really have a particular favorite because there were some really good ones. What about you, Gordon?
No Ewok beats Simon the Killer Ewok, except Yum Nugget. Yeah, for me...
Simon the Killer Ewok.
For me, my favourite ones would be Mako and Vet. The Twi'lek with an attitude, and the little sister, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I am quite sure she descended from Mission.
that has to be a thing. There's no way that much attitude in that Twi'lek without that being descendant of Mission. That was never clarified, though.
I think it's the same voice actor, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Same actress. Definitely a good actress, too. Because she pulls off that attitude so well.
Sorry, folks, I don't know who's destroying their microphone.
I stopped eating my popcorn before we recorded.
Well, when it became clear that Amelia wasn't. No, I don't really think I have much else on SWTOR. Do you guys?
Not really, no.
There was one other thing going on. I kind of already touched on it briefly, but Terry, there's, I guess, a lot of controversy going on with server merger going on right now.
So I've seen in the forums people screaming about their ping rates going up and them moving to the West Coast and terrified of what's going to happen when their servers all merge together in one big mess. And they're saying everything will be fine, and I'm sitting here going, yeah, right. Murphy's Law says something's going to go wrong.
It's fine.
Murphy's Law dictates it. Yeah. No, I remember this will be probably the second server merge for SWTOR servers. I know it was around for the first one, and I actually did lose my legacy name during that, so I was a little upset about that. But I think they're addressing that this time around.
I can't remember, actually. I was reading something about it earlier. Let's see. What will happen to my characters? Character names. box.
That was really. I mean, by that point, I had like the maximum level legacy, all that fun stuff.
Since legacy names are not unique, you will not lose a legacy name as part of the process. However,
Okay,
if you have two legacies which are brought together, the name and level of the highest level legacy will be maintained.
Interesting. And I think that's actually particularly, while they aren't merging with the other server I have, I do have the same legacy name on both servers, and they're both max level legacies, so I wonder how that would work. You choose, or they choose. I guess it wouldn't matter. Whatever has more unlocks.
Yeah, basically everything from the two legacies will be merged. And
Yeah,
since they're both the same level, it wouldn't really matter. And if you said they've got the same name, so it wouldn't really matter either way.
Yeah, it wouldn't matter too much. And I know character names, like individual characters, can be changed if there are multiple of those.
Yeah, because character names are unique, so
Which
it's
a little bit lame.
priority is given to subscribers over free-to-play and preferred players.
Right.
And then after that, I guess it's first come, first serve.
So that was happening in November, you said, Terry?
Yeah, I think that's what she said.
I think it was November 8th or something like that, early in November.
I had the information here about 2 seconds ago.
No,
Now I can't find it. The 8th of November 2017 is when it's happening.
Awesome. Well, good to know. I'll probably have to log in and see what the damage is when, assuming I'm around the computer at that point. Yes, my November is particularly crazy. I'm not sure about your guys's.
Also, if you log in and play between November 8 and November 27, you can get some new rewards, including a mini pet just by logging in. Companion when you complete 3 PvE or 3 PvP missions for the group finder.
Okay.
And an achievement when you do 3 PvE group finder activities. Oh, 2 different achievements actually.
They're encouraging more social interaction then, which is good since it's an MMO and not a single player like I tended to play most of the time. So, okay. Well, any other comments on SWTOR? We move on here.
Nothing here, no.
I can't really think of anything else to go over either. Obviously, Dylan, you won't have much to say as this isn't a game you particularly played much of. The tie-in novels were good. I'll give it that.
Well, I'm through 3 of the 4 tie-in novels right now.
I'm assuming, Terry, you don't have any?
Not really, although I am thrilled that Theron is so popular since that's where he came from. We get credit for Theron.
So, no, I think we're ready to move on then.
Alright, the question of the podcast was, what got you hooked on Star Wars? Brian, what got you hooked on Star Wars?
So you can really take it down to 2 things. I always, the movies, the original trilogy, got me interested in the universe. It's the expanded universe that kept me around, so I guess that's really where your hook would be. And if you really wanted to narrow it down, you could blame it on the computer game Dark Forces, which I saw my cousin playing. And that led me to the library to start looking for more stuff. And the Back to War is what I found there. So you could blame it on Dark Forces and the Back to War.
Terry?
With me, it was Return of the Jedi. I mean, I can't remember ever not being into it, but I really got hooked with Return of the Jedi, and then it was all fizzling out, and then all of a sudden, oh look, there's a used book called Han Solo's Revenge. And after that, as soon as they really started the expanded universe, I was like, I'm all in. Give me everything.
More Star Wars? Yes, please.
Dylan?
Guess the movies. More the movies, just the lore
the lore itself. So
Yeah.
not necessarily the movie, because
Well, the movies open up the door to the
cinematically.
lore, but I guess I have this with everything I get into, that if I enjoy it, I just want to know more about the world. And Star Wars was the only thing that I could actually do that with.
So rich lore. You looked for rich lore, and there was certainly a lot of that when it came to the.
You could say that. I guess you could probably say that there was a lot of lore in Star Wars.
Still is, and hopefully more of it adding. Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. Gordon, what about you? What was the hook into Star Wars for you?
Well, as I've said before, when I first got introduced to Star Wars, it was the book Vector Prime, and I just kind of got hooked straight from the start. Because
So Vector Prime. So what about Vector Prime got you so hooked into Star Wars?
I don't have a clue. It's just.
Well, you said you really liked moons, didn't you? Like you had a fascination with moons.
I did not say that. No. If you're gonna make a Chewbacca joke, I'll drop a moon on you.
Please don't. I'm far too close on the planet to that. No, I don't think. No, I'll be interested to see what people say in response to the question. Hopefully in the comments and Facebook and on YouTube, because that's always an interesting one. Just like what introduced you to the EU that Matt's always asking. Matt Wilkins is always asking people. You get a lot of different answers to this question. I mean, you had a bunch of different answers right here, so it's always interesting.
As we have 10 whole seconds of dead air.
That's right.
So I was just
Well-
posting it to the Facebook page.
Got it. So, I don't think there's really we're doing this podcast, was there, Gordon?
No, I don't think there is. No.
That might be the shortest one yet.
There was one thing we could say.
What's that?
Rest in peace, John Molo, that did the costumes for the original trilogy. It's trending that he died today.
Oh, I didn't even see that. See, I've been avoiding social media all day, so I had no idea. That is pretty sad, actually.
Yeah, I don't get the same trending topics that you people get.
I got off Twitter from Mark Hamill himself, so good source.
Yeah.
So from Twitter,
Oh, should we talk about Mark Hamill's leaking of The Last Jedi?
if you want to. I don't really pay much of attention.
Well, yeah, apparently Mark Hamill, good on Mark Hamill for finding this, but there's a leaked, for some reason, they decided to publish the novelization for The Last Jedi early, and it's been out in circulation for, I want to say, like, nearly a decade now. So, yeah, be aware it's out there. There is The Last Jedi book. If you don't want spoilers, please don't buy the book.
Yeah.
And he tweeted that. That was Mark Hamill's tweet, no less.
Yep.
If you want any thoughts on spoilers for this upcoming movie, do is go ahead and take a look at the Expanding Universe doc for the posts that we've had there about it. So,
Yeah.
no spoiling the darn movie, dang it.
Yep.
But if you want to buy our Expanded Universe book, feel free.
Yes, definitely. All right, Gordon, take it away.
You have been watching the Twin Suns Foundation podcast. If you enjoyed what you watched, feel free to give this video a like, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with a friend. I have been your host, Aussie Evie, and we'll see you next time.